Loading. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Galactic Nerd Outpost. I am your host, Joey McGee, aka Gojin Damakai Phantom, and joining me is Cody Brastch. And that sexy Texan we have not seen in quite a while, Trev Thom's Cold Classic Corner.
Woohoo! How you doing? How's everybody this afternoon?
I think he's flirting with you, with everyone in the comments.
I will neither confirm or deny.
But what we have today is I want to get some people some chance to kind of just come in here and join. So before we get into the main topics of this
he wants people to come, all right.
But before we get into the main topics of this podcast, we're going to take a look at something that I didn't get into the title or thumbnail because Cody wanted to talk about it a little bit after I set everything up. So
yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I don't mind that. At least this gives some people some time to join in alongside an extra topic in there. And
yes, sir.
This is a sequel to a film that a lot of us actually grew up with. I don't want to say I grew up with it as much as these two fuckers have because I didn't watch it all the time, but I did watch it sometimes. And
we don't actually know if it's a sequel or not for sure. We don't actually really know what this is, but you go on ahead and finish what you were going to say, and then I'll explain what's up.
Joe, are you saying that we're old or something?
Yes, you are.
Here you listen here, you young whippersnapper. In my day when you're hurting and murdering, get off my lawn, you crazy kid. Here.
That's right, sonny boy.
These kids today got no respect. They're wearing their pants too low. It's down across their waist, for goodness sake.
But what this is maybe sequel, reboot, I don't know, to Small Soldiers called War for Necron. And let's look at it right now.
For sure.
Did they have to add that?
I think they did. Probably for investors and whatnot.
Exactly. I kind of feel like this is like a pitch for something, and they don't necessarily have anything yet. This is just something they, like a proof of concept, like it said.
Okay.
Now, the person in the background that was leaving, it was blurred, but they look like they might have been a live-action person, but the rest of this looks like it might be computer animated, like the whole thing.
Yeah, yes, that's what I was thinking, too, when I saw the thumbnail from you fuckers, because when you sent it to the Discord server, I was like, is this an animated film? I didn't even know if it was Small Soldiers or not, and that's something I kind of have mixed feelings on, because while it's not like I'm in love with the first movie, I haven't seen it in years, so I don't have too much of an opinion on it, but it's I think one thing that made that film clever and what made that film work is their toys, their action figures. So using practical effects worked. And when you use something like CGI, even though it's modern day computer generated effects, it's gonna look.
Hey, broski.
Huh?
It wasn't just puppetry that they used in the original movie. They also used CGI where they felt that puppetry wouldn't work as well.
Oh yeah, because there's definitely some shots in that original movie that they couldn't have pulled off with practicals.
Yeah, but
like that one bike scene, for example.
Yeah, but that's only to do what they couldn't do practically. For example, I preach this all the time. In the 90s and early 2000s, CGI was in a more beta type stage. So I think if you were going to use it back then, it should only be used when necessary. But I think even in modern day with perfected CGI, I think with a movie like this, you should primarily use practical because it gives more of the toy vibe there, if you know what I'm saying. Well, this looks to be like something like Toy Story.
You know what the funny thing is, since you brought that up, I was going to bring this up earlier. A lot of people thought that Small Soldiers was some sort of attempt by DreamWorks to cash in on Toy Stories, which it might have been, but as you can see, if you watch the two back to back, all they have in common with each other is that the toys come to life, and that's for very different reasons. But the rest of the movies are totally different from each other.
It may have inspired him, though, Joe Dante, though. Like, Joe Dante might have seen Toy Story and be like, you know what? I want to make my own toy movie, but make it completely different.
Well, here's the thing about that. I don't know if Joe Dante went to DreamWorks with the idea, or if DreamWorks went to Joe Dante. And for those of you uncultured swine who don't know who Joe Dante is, he is a very well achieved, successful director in Hollywood who's done movies such as the original Howling, he's done Gremlins, he's done Explorers, Inner Space, and that very much beloved Looney Tunes Back in Action. Yeah, most people don't remember it.
What were you about to say, Trevor?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, honestly, what the original Small Soldiers reminds me of is another Dante movie, which was The Burbs with Tom Hanks. And it actually kind of feels like a precursor to the first Transformers movie, because the dad in both movies is played by Kevin Dunn. And, you know, it has that kind of two factions of these otherworldly characters facing off with each other. You know, it really reminds me of that. And so, yeah, it may have been a precursor to that, too.
I heard of The Burbs. I still got to see that one.
It's on my list, too.
Alice said, true, CGI should only be used when practical effects are impossible. I think nowadays you can use CGI for whatever you want, though, because nowadays CGI is in a perfected state. So it's like, if you want to use something that could be practical entirely as CGI, I'm not going to stop you, and I'd still praise it for what the crap does work. But back in the day, I think, since CGI was definitely not as advanced as practical effects were, it should have stayed when only necessary.
I can see.
What, Trev?
No, I just say I agree with you.
Oh, okay.
Nice call back to the first movie with that plastic fist break thing.
So this looks CGI, but it also kind of has that motion feel to it.
I can agree with you completely. Like, it has, like, from the thumbnail, I'll admit, it wasn't the most flattering shot. It looked kind of like an animated movie. But this shot right here, I'd say it looks real enough. Still, practical would be preferential, since you can't beat what's actually there if you're making a fucking toy. But, you know what? This isn't far off.
If I may, I want to say that very last shot before it switched, when he's looking around, I think that's a digital shot, but because again, I think the majority of this is digital. But I gotta say, it's a testament to how far digital effects have come. Because in all honesty, that legit looked like a action figure was getting up on his own and moving on its own, and not in the stop motion-y sort of way. Even though that would have been cool too, like with the Lego videos, but it looked like the movement was so smooth. The layering on the character even had a bit of a glare from the lights on the plastic of the armor and all that. It looked amazing. And
I can agree.
And if I may, I think that whoever this character's name is, based on how he looked in the thumbnail that you talked about, I put it next to a shot from Major Chip Hazard. There is some similarities, and I think that's intentional, considering the fact that this character is supposed to play the same role, clearly, as Chip Hazard did in the first movie.
Yeah.
Space Elite in place of Commando Elite.
Like, yeah, that looks incredible. It looks almost like a real figure, but like I said, let me go back here for a sec. You can still tell to a degree that's a digital effect there. Like I said, it looks phenomenal, but I think when you're doing toys, you can't beat something that's actually there, if you know what I mean.
I understand completely, and it is shots like this that makes me wonder if this whole thing is going to be computer animated as well. Like if it's going to be like a DreamWorks / Pixar movie in that regard.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll have to see. Like, the movement here is really good, but like it kind of reminds me of that more I don't want to say janky, because janky is intention, it means bad, but the more frame ratey, or whatever word I'm looking for, movement of that new Turtles movie.
Yeah,
like, you see what I mean on this? Like, it kind of reminds me of that. They're trying to mimic stop motion, and I'd say, where's Trevor?
Trevor, where'd you go?
Trevor said in the comments, they're fine. Okay. Trevor said in the comments, they're fine so long as fans don't start believing they're actually canon. If something official contradicts them. Agreed. Like, I think, Trevor, when it comes to that, it comes down to interpretation. Like, if you're interpreting the text of the art, like in my Spider-Man review, here's a little sneak peek of what's to come in it. I say something like I interpret like how Mary Jane is behaving around Peter Parker, and with the context of her recognizing his voice as Spider-Man, I think that she had a clue he was Peter Parker. She didn't know, but she had a clue. And I think in Spider-Man 2, when she did that test kiss, it was kinda to see if that was the same kiss she did in the alleys with Peter. But if Sam Raimi or something in the text contradicts that theory of her having a clue of him being Peter, then I'm not gonna go with it. I'm gonna drop that theory, that interpretation.
I do think you might have been on to something, though, because at the end of Spider-Man 2, she does say, I think a part of me always knew.
Yeah, exactly. What are your thoughts on that, Trevor? Because I'm putting that in my video.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, like I think that goes down to interpretation. But if something in the text goes against your theory, or if the author themselves says that's not what they were going for, then I think it's kind of irrelevant. Like, many people like to try to put in an interpretation on what King Kong meant, but King Kong, Marion C. Cooper said he was just going for a big gorilla, fun escapist film. And here's what I say. Sometimes a painting of fruit is just a painting of fruit. It doesn't always mean something.
Well, on the Spider-Man note, think about this. How long does Aunt May know? I mean, we can have our fan theories about that, and it seems like she knows for quite a while, depending on, how you interpret certain things that she says.
Exactly. But if Sam Raimi ever came out and said that nobody was supposed to have a clue he was Peter, then we'd be wrong. But since he never said anything, we can interpret whatever we want based off the text and acting performances.
I will say, though, when it comes to that, some artists' words may not be exactly what's the word? Trustworthy, considering the fact that Tommy Wiseau keeps on flip-flopping on what the room was supposed to be in his own words.
Well, I mean, if they're consistent on what they say, like if we have the one word they're going with, then okay. But if they keep flip-flopping on what something means, then it's still up for interpretation.
Right on. Necronites in place of the Gorgonites. Very nice.
Like the CGI is mostly good, but something about that movement right there just really screamed that it was CGI to me. It looked too fast and didn't really keep that stop motion like aesthetic it originally it had in the first bit.
Remember, all this is just a proof of concept. Consider if any investors do end up picking up whatever this project is, whether it's a movie, a sequel, a reboot, a TV show, what have you, we might get improvements on whatever flaws you might end up seeing in this here. So I just wanted to point that out.
Oh yeah, I agree. But it's still, we are given this. So as a result, we should kind of give any props when it's needed and criticism when it's needed.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not trying to say, now, hold on, man. You can't say anything mean here or anything nice here. I'm not going to be that kind of guy. I'm just trying to say, give you something, bring you something up for the sake of discussion. If
Okay.
that makes any sense at all.
That makes perfect sense.
Oos.
I like this choreography. Like, this shot from up here looks really good.
Oh, absolutely. I love the changing of angles.
Yep. Now, see, that looks like a cartoon, too. Like, I'm honestly seeing hit and miss effects here.
But I love the way this is directed. It's very suspenseful.
What, Trevor?
Say that again?
Oh, I like the way this is directed. It keeps your interest. It's very suspenseful and very well framed.
Oh, I can
Oh,
completely
absolutely.
agree. The camera
I love
angle, the pacing is all done with Chef's Kiss here.
Yeah.
And that great reveal of, oh, they're not in the box? How'd they get out of the box? We cut through the side of that shit and we're boogieing out of here, motherfucker!
Like, look how that camera movement. That looks really good. And it's capturing the power that's been being there.
Oh, the Necro Knights look fucking awesome.
They do!
Oh, pause it for a second. Something I want to bring up. Here's what this whole thing has reminded me of so far, just a little bit. Feel free to disagree with me. To me, this is like if Transformers Beast Wars had the animation of Transformers Prime. What do you think?
Oh, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. Like, I haven't seen those shows entirety yet, but I have seen bits and pieces of both to have an understanding of what you're talking about, if that makes sense.
Right
Yeah.
on. And not just from the designs, it's honestly just how the way the story's playing out so far, like the pacing and the way everything's playing out right now all reminds me of how an episode of Beast Wars would play out, whereas the animation, that clearly comes from Prime.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Trevor. Say what you were going to say.
Oh, no, that was it, man.
Oh, right on. Mimi.
Like, see, I do love how the majority of the movement here, despite being CGI, does try to capture a stop-motion-like aesthetic. It keeps it feeling like toys, even, like I said, even if it's not as much as what something actually there could do.
Right on. I like how this one guy, the guy who slowly pushed the one guy's arm cannon down, is basically our Archer stand-in, the same way that the dude chasing them was the Major Chip Hazard stand-in. It's a great dynamic between them.
Yeah, I
really
can
classic stuff.
like the stiff movement, and I say that in a good way because it makes it feel like toys, because toys are stiff when you articulate them.
Giggity.
Anyone knows how this soundtrack is making a thing with a bunch of fucking toys sound epic?
I was about to say, I love how the soundtrack really comes in the last half of this so far. This is just like, oh my god, this is some... If they submitted this as like a short film for the Oscars, I'd say it would deserve to win Best Short Film.
Oh, yeah.
Great emphasis on visual storytelling.
Yep. Now they're showing off their CGI there. They're showing off their CGI quality there because of how it's zoomed in. Let me rewind back. It really does look like a toy.
Yep.
Like, see all the white, whatever the fuck that, like, all the white stuff that's on there. And
So,
how
like, probably some scratching on the paint a little bit, maybe some dust pixels, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You can also see the gaps.
Such a great attention to detail.
Exactly.
Oh my god, this music! Jesus Christ!
These are toys, everyone, and they're making it out like this big badass thing.
Right? I mean, like, holy shit! I mean, fucking some wrestlers wish they have entrances that awesome.
Exactly. It's excellent build-up, and these are all toys. I'm not complaining either. It's just it's funny in a good way.
Absolutely.
Small soldiers, war for the Necron.
And here we are. Credits. That's cool. I hope Thom picks it up because I did see Small Soldiers like once, twice, maybe 3 times as a kid, and I liked it enough. My most nostalgic with it comes in the regard that I ended up getting, me and my brothers and even sister, I think, ended up getting these toys from the movie, and I remember them being pretty damn accurate to what you got on the screen. And that's one of the things that why I keep going back to the practical thing in the original, because since they were practical, the merch felt like they came out of that movie. At least by how I felt as a kid when I had them. Like, I had art.
They sort of did in a way. Let me explain. Originally, when the studio approached Joe Dante as to direct this movie, they built it up as they wanted it to be sort of edgy and appeal to a teenage audience because it was the 90s, and during the 90s, everything was supposed to be edgy and extreme. But then when all the merchandising started building up and a lot of people were like, hey, we want to make this for that with the movie, we want to make this, they're like, holy shit, this might have mass market appeal. And then they asked Joe Dante to tone the movie down to make it appeal to smaller kids instead. So a lot of people say that that's a problem with the movie, and one also theorized it might be why it failed at the box office and why critics didn't like it is because of how totally inconsistent it is. Some parts feel like they were made for an edgy teenager movie, whereas others feel like they were made for a family-friendly kid movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in years.
You know, I just want to say it really sucks whenever all these movies that I consider childhood classics, you end up finding out that they were flops. And it's like, it's so weird. It's kind of an out-of-body experience. It's like, why did I love these movies that just didn't resonate on the way that the studios wanted them to?
It breaks my heart too, man.
Yeah. Well, it seems like Small Soldiers has gained enough of a cult following, which is why this was a thing.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that, but I forgot to. I'm like, we now have proof here that finally somebody remembered that Small Soldiers existed.
Honestly, here's how I feel. I feel how something is remembered holds more weight than what something made at the time of its release, because like I said, Pacific Rim, it wasn't a flop, but it was a box office disappointment. everybody knows what Pacific Rim is now. You still see stuff like a Pacific Rim figure in Krampus, a Pacific Rim poster in the new Flash movie. New Pacific Rim figures are on the horizon. And it's not just our community that remembers the Pacific Rim either. Like, the general audience remembers Pacific Rim. It's a very well-remembered movie. The Thing straight up flopped at the box office, and everybody knows what The Thing is. It's regarded as a masterpiece, and it's a classic. So
I know. I think there's just some people just can't help but be disappointed because of the fact that, well, you see movies like E.T. and the first Star Wars and Jaws that did so well at the box office and were right off the bat loved by near universally, and then you see these movies that you consider to be just as good, and you find out that they're flopped and a lot of people don't like them, or at least professional critics don't, and you're like, why don't people like this? This is just on the level of those things that they do like, and so on and so forth.
Well, yeah. I'm glad in the case of Pacific Rim, it's not taking near as long as it did for The Thing, because even like 10 years after The Thing came out, it was still considered, a disappointment, blah, blah, blah. It was more like about 20 years after it came out that people were like, hey, wait a minute, this thing's actually good. So with Pacific Rim, I'm glad it's only been at least 10 years and we're seeing its influences. But then again, it also got a sequel. Say what you will about it. It still got a sequel that has its fans.
Prequel.
True. And also, they had the anime series on Netflix. So there was something that spun off from it. Oh, Cody, I was talking about Pacific Rim in particular.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're fine.
Yeah,
the problem with The Thing prequel is that because it was just called The Thing again, people thought it was a remake. You'd be surprised how many people I talked to about it, and they're like, oh, I thought that was a remake, so I didn't watch it.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, for example, Hercules, I liked Hercules. I saw it recently. It was a fun little action movie with Dwayne Johnson. It overall did fine at the box office, but here's the thing. Nobody remembers Hercules. That's the thing.
Yeah, I had a fun enough time with it. The problem with that is that they did the whole, okay, here's the real story. The mythological stuff is all bullshit. And, this is actually what happened. I think if they had embraced the myth, I think it might have been a bit more memorable because it would have been riding that mini wave of popularity that Clash of the Titans kind of inspired. There was a brief stint of mythological movies, but it kind of fizzled out there in the early 2010s.
Yeah,
right, I remember that. If I may, I like what they did with the Hercules movie with The Rock. I like it all right, but honestly, because of what the trailers promised, I thought I was going to stick closer to the myth, and that's what I would have wanted. And I find the story of the myth to be, if I had to be frank, to be superior to what the movie gave us. And because the movie didn't give anything equal or better to the myth, I think that's why a lot of people ended up jaded by the movie and didn't go see it.
Yeah, in terms of well, Hercules did good at the box office. It's my point of bringing that up was the fact that it did well, but nobody really remembers it. While stuff like Pacific Rim or The Thing disappointed to straight up flopped in The Thing's regard, but are now highly regarded as classics that everyone knows exist.
Well, see, that's the funny thing with Dwayne Johnson is that for the longest time, he was always a guaranteed box office draw. It's only been here recently, like with Black Adam, that, he's kind of got a piece of humble pie, and he's always been relatively successful. So, but to your point, Joey, that's not one of the ones that people bring up whenever somebody mentions Dwayne Johnson. Oh, yeah, of course, Hercules. They don't usually say that.
Exactly. Now, I do think one thing that makes Hercules...
I gotta say something about that. People are talking about how The Rock had to eat a piece of humble pie and are now cheating on him because he tried to, quote unquote, take control. I don't understand why people decided that they need to shit on him, because those same people were asking for the things that The Rock was pushing for in the DCEU. The Rock is not a dumb person. He had his finger on the pulse of what the fans were saying they wanted out of the DCEU, and he was trying to give it to them, and then his movie flopped, and then everyone's like, and then the DC executives are like, get out of my building, and now everyone's laughing at him like he's like a marauder in the street. It's just like, you're all making fun of him for trying to give you guys what you wanted. And y'all didn't go see what his movie was when he was trying to give you what you wanted.
I don't
What's
know
with
why
you people?
I don't know why everyone's saying he needed to be humbled or some shit. It's not like he was snobby about being successful. He just got lucky and people loved him. That's it.
Well, okay. Let me clarify, guys. Sorry, because I think there's a slight misunderstanding. I'm just saying that he put a lot of chips on Black Adam, and unfortunately, maybe it's due to the brand association. It didn't pay off. I'm not saying that he was snobby or anything about it.
I didn't think you were.
Yeah,
I didn't think you were. I was talking about was more so
about the
to
community.
yeah.
Exactly. Trust me, I know all about that community. It's very frustrating.
Amen.
Yeah. But
I apologize for cutting you off, Trevor. Please finish.
Oh no, you're fine. I just wanted to clarify because I realized based on what I said that it seemed like I was agreeing with that. But I mean, you just got to be careful with the projects that you invest in because sometimes they may not pay off. And to your point, Cody, I think you're right. He was giving or trying to give the fans what they wanted. Just not enough of them showed up, unfortunately. So it's really kind of on them.
yeah.
For sure. Everyone makes fun of The Rock, but I honestly feel kind of bad for him. He was doing what he thought was right for the people people he wanted to come see his movie, and then they didn't come see his movie.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem, Cody, and this is all I'll say about it so that we don't get off in the weeds too much. He basically walked into a mess and tried to clean it up, and he couldn't do it by himself.
Fair.
Yeah, exactly. And as I was about to say about Hercules, I think when it comes to that movie and its twist, the thing that makes it stand out the most, in my opinion, is Dwayne Johnson and his character basically trying to get himself basically on how he was basically destroyed by something that occurred to his past family. And it kind of made him see himself in a better image, if you know what I'm saying.
Indeed.
Right on.
That's what made it stand out, was the positive tone that went with it, and growing Dwayne Johnson's character to growing more self-esteem on himself rather than looking down on himself by not only having that legend, but also quote-unquote proving his legend to the people who liked him.
Right on.
I concur.
I got a question.
This review of Hercules brought to you by the Galactic Nerd Outpost.
Were we talking about some sort of toy movie or something?
Well, yeah, but it was spurred on. It went on to the topic of box office flops and box office disappointments and things that did succeed but ended up getting forgotten.
So here's my thoughts on that proof of concept. At first, I thought that might be like a trailer for what might be a YouTube series, but I don't know if the resources might be there for it to just be purely YouTube. I think they're trying to get people interested so that they can, get more funding for whatever ideas they have in store. I'm also wondering if this will follow, the theme of the first movie where the Commandos were actually the bad guys and the Gorgonites were the good guys. In this case, it looks like it may be the reverse.
What makes you say that?
Well, I don't know, because the proof of concept trailer seems to imply that the Commando equivalents, they're basically the good guys, I'm guessing, and the Necrons have a much more, villainous look. I guess you could say that's the same for the Gorgonites, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm familiar with the original story. They were monsters, but they didn't necessarily look villainous. They were kind of like the outcasts and freaks. The Necrons kind of look more sinister and much more malicious.
I don't agree with that personally, because in my opinion, the way it was framing it, it seemed like they were again the good guys, the misunderstood good guys, like the Gorgonites were in the last movie. Because if you recall, they were all running from this one guy. If they were truly the villains, they could have taken that guy head on and ganged up on him, but it didn't seem to be like they wanted anything to do with that, whereas the one guy kept on running after them and shooting at them, even after they had a wall of glass separating them, and the one guy was trying to be sympathetic to him, doing the whole hand touch through the glass thing, and then the guy's like, "Don't you fucking touch me!" and tried to shoot him.
Okay. Now that you put it that way, I can see what you're saying. But to somebody who's unfamiliar, they might be thinking that it's more like a taunting enemy who's trying to say, "Come and get me." But to your point, I think you actually are more dead on, because that would be more faithful to the source material.
I'm going to be perfectly honest about something, and you can laugh at my autistic ass about this. right up until I actually saw the movie, despite seeing all the advertisements, I still thought the Commando Elite were the good guys and the Gorgonites were the bad guys. Because my stupid autistic mind was programmed to think, oh, guys dressed like this are the good guys. Guys that look like that are the bad guys. Which...
Oh, well, hey, don't throw yourself under the bus, man, because that's kind of a similar thing that happened with T2. People who saw the trailer for that movie thought, okay, Arnold's back. He's probably the bad guy still. And the guy in the cop outfit is the good guy. Of course, then they saw the movie and they realized, oh, this isn't the case at all.
Something like, I think that might have been intentional, and maybe the thing with the toys with small soldiers might have been intentional, because it plays with people's expectations and swerves them. To quote that one Robot Chicken sketch, what a twist.
What a twist. So yeah,
because it's fun to play with people's expectations. They have this locked-in mindset of what things are supposed to be, and then you can just fuck with that and have Archer be like, the Gorgonites are peaceful, we mean you no harm, and then the Commandos are just doing these continuously awful things. They drug these two people, they tie up their son, then they tie up their daughter after terrorizing her with her own Wendy dolls. Holy shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So
my final thoughts on that, I guess, to sum it up, is that I think it looked pretty incredible. And it was a nice surprise to find randomly late at night on YouTube. And I thought, man, this looks fantastic. And I hope that somebody takes interest so that we can see more of it.
Oh, I agree full-heartedly. Oh, and also a big thank you, everyone, to Trevor being the one that brought this to our attention, because I had no idea this was even a thing. I didn't find out until 6 days after it was posted, and he put it in our Discord server, and I'm just like, holy shit. Speaking of which, if you want nice surprises like that, you should definitely join us in the Discord server. Come be our friends, and we'll all talk nerd shit together.
Exactly. That's what the server's there.
So again, thank you, Trevor, for showing us this. And holy shit, I hope that there's more to come from this, because I want to know more. I want to know what this whole thing is about. What are they planning to do? Is this like a reboot, or is it a spiritual sequel, an actual sequel? What is this?
Exactly.
What's this?
I agree completely.
But are we moving on to the next topic now, or you guys have more stuff to say about small soldiers?
I was wondering if you had more to say, Joey.
Okay. Yeah, actually.
One at a time, please.
You go ahead.
One at a time.
I was wondering if you had anything to say, more to say about it, Joey.
I ran out of what I had to say. It's been years since I've seen the first movie.
Fair enough.
And
okay, now you say
my history.
Now you say what you were going to say, Trevor. I'm sorry for talking over you.
No, it's fine, man. We can't see each other, so that's probably why we're doing it. Actually, it's a pretty good transition into the next topic, because it was watching the trailer for the next topic that I think I found this, because it was in the recommends for whatever reason. The Small Soldiers one was.
Yeah, and what we're looking at today is a movie by a company you guys might not look the highest upon due to what it's been in these recent years, but it's, despite coming out now since 1994 when it was supposed to be put out, this is an older movie, and it's by Full Moon, and I believe Charles Band's involved with it. And it's called The Primevals. Trevor actually contributed to the Kickstarter of getting it finished.
Yes, sir. So are we going to watch the trailer?
Yes, sir. That's
okay, and then I'll bitch about it afterwards.
Yep.
Four weeks ago, several Nepalese shepherds killed a large anthropoid.
things to say right off the bat.
Go
I
ahead.
like that despite the fact this is technically a early 90s movie, early to mid 90s, they definitely remastered the footage to look like a modern day film, at least to a degree.
Well, it looks incredible in my opinion. Very nice and sharp.
Exactly. It's very clean looking.
I want to get into this later, but I gotta say this movie is so far by this trailer, it looks like a fascinating anomaly because it was start production years ago in the 90s, and then it got shelved, and then a lot of people are like, let's finish this motherfucker in the modern day, and now seeing the clash of what it was then versus what they could do now. Because,
Exactly.
like you said, it does seem like they remastered both the footage and also the soundtrack, not just the music, but all the entire sound system seems like it was updated to fit the standards of today. But there's still some shots visually that if you look close enough, you can tell that shit was shot in the 90s versus something that was probably shot in modern times. So it's a big fascinating thing with this movie. It's honestly a miracle. This movie's a fucking miracle in all the
Yeah.
best ways.
Yeah, and basically any new shots that are seen in this movie, to complete it, are just animation shots because that's all they had left to do.
Exactly. And the thing about this whole Kickstarter thing, it makes me wish Shizuo Nakajima, I believe his name is, something along those lines, would set up a Kickstarter for Godzilla versus the Wolfman, just so he wouldn't be finishing it on his own.
Yeah. Although I gotta be honest, the footage that I have seen of Godzilla vs. the Wolfman so far, it's okay, but as is, if you were to finish the movie on its own, I honestly don't think it would be that good.
I
And
think
it probably wouldn't. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It
No,
probably wouldn't match either because that as opposed to this, that looks like it was, I believe, from the early '80s, '83, I think. And also the big elephant in the room with that is whether or not Toho would let him do it. Unfortunately.
Well, I think there's ways he can do it, just
Yeah.
he can't profit off it that much. Like, he would have to release it like that one fan film, Godzilla Battle Royale, got released.
Yeah.
Although I will say, there's a chance that even if Toho did become aware of this and get more actively involved, they could have him lock it away the same way Toho had those people doing that one film, Godzilla the Heritage. They had them lock that away, and they sort of killed that fan film. So I guess it's a case by case basis,
Yeah, but considering he wants to release it soon, I'm gonna guess that he does have more rights to put it out now, or he has some type of idea that'll let him put it out legally. But it's like, do what Full Moon did and put a Kickstarter just so you could make it up to modern standards like this.
I hate to be the cynical kind of guy here, but I'm going to say it when it comes to Godzilla versus the Wolfman getting a full release, or Wolfman versus Godzilla, whichever, I don't care. When it comes to that movie getting finished and released, I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, the thing is, he's finishing it on his own, and we're not making a movie here. We're not doing any of the touches like he is. So you got to understand how long that's going to take. Now, there are available versions of the movie, but they're called cuts. Like that one I was talking about, that one guy who released a cut recently, it was like that's a version of the movie. But the thing is, the pacing of that is so all over the place, nothing gets developed.
Right. I'm just saying that because we've seen projects, both official and fan, that have come along where they've said they're going to do something, and then they end up not doing it. Todd McFarlane's new Spawn movie, anyone?
Which now is supposedly supposed to come out in 2025, but like you said, Cody, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. Johnny said Full Moon should have made a Zarkor versus Craw movie. No, they shouldn't. But I like the monsters. Zarkor, Craw, the monster is okay, but their movies are both terrible.
Yeah, let's face it. As cool as the movie those monsters are in concept, Full Moon was clearly not the people to be making their movies.
Definitely not. it definitely shone around the 90s is when Full Moon was slowly, they were on the beginning of their downward spiral. Like, you still had films like this they'd put out every once in a while, but they were still on there.
Because for those who don't know, Full Moon Pictures has been around for years. They're very well known for making schlock, both when it comes to horror movies and also for family entertainment and everything in between. And sometimes the intentional campiness gave it charm, but then over time you start to see that, like, it seems like they're running on fumes and they're putting out products that aren't as entertaining. So to that point, we have Craw and Zarkor's movies released in the mid to late 90s that the monsters are cool, but the movies are sorely lacking, even though Craw's movie is comparably the more entertaining of the two.
Its sequel's even worse, though. There's plenty of stock footage from both Craw and multiple other movies they worked on. It's awful.
You can't even call that thing a sequel. I used to have that movie on VHS, and I'm just like, this is literally just Craw, but with extra bits of other movies thrown in here. It's like, what was the point?
Yeah, that, if anything is a 1 out of 10 movie, it's that film.
Ugh.
It is perhaps the most important discovery of the century.
Nice speech.
Matt.
If we can discover how this creature crossed the genetic barrier from one life form to another, we'll unlock the mysteries of heredity.
You know you can't answer those questions without a living specimen.
A fucking miracle.
Which requires an expedition.
What are you two at? Tigers? Buffalo? Something even more
Oh,
dangerous.
okay, I might be overthinking here, but anybody else feel this shot right here, having it in black and white, it's big audience, they are referencing King Kong.
Oh,
no,
for sure.
no, Joey. They're clearly even referencing Mighty Joe Young.
But I like that here. Like, this shows that there is passion in this project. Like, they took that shot there, had all this audience, and they're replicating the showcase of that film. I like that. That's awesome.
I know it's wonderful. This whole movie seems like it's gonna be a wonderful, absolutely delightful.
Yeah, exactly.
Something even more dangerous.
We're searching for a Yeti.
The Yeti!
He attacks suddenly, viciously. It's too dangerous to travel by night in these mountains.
But we've come too far to lose them now!
I also like that this doesn't feel like much of a horror movie, but it has more of this big, epic action-adventure film vibe going for it. Almost like there, as a whole, there is inspiration of King Kong going for it. Just instead of going to Skull Island, they're going to the mountains with the Yeti.
It
Oh,
almost...
for sure.
What, Trevor?
It almost... Sorry.
Oh, no, I just said for sure.
It
No, you
almost
go.
reminds me of Matt Denion's book, The Polar Yeti, The Beast of Prehistory. It has a very... Trevor knows what's up. It has a very similar vibe with some minor differences that we'll see later in the trailer.
Yeah, exactly. Alice said, I know something even more dangerous than that animal. It's called... Okay.
Ha! Poop jokes!
Avalanche!
Man, I just really appreciate what they're doing here. Like, you can tell they're on a budget and pushing that budget to its limits on what they could do with a big, epic, escapist action-adventure film.
I have so much to say.
I feel that so far it seems like if you take a King Kong movie and put even more influences of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Lost World into it, you get this movie.
Yes, sir. I agree.
And Trevor, do you want to get any of that? Like, we're gonna talk about more after the trailer is over, but if you have anything to say, feel free to say anything in response to what I'm saying here, if you want.
No, it's just funny because y'all are mentioning the King Kong influences and about the budget and whatnot, and how Full Moon's product turned out later on. All these things are actually connected.
Oh, they are?
Yes, sir. So, and I'll get into that. I just want to wait because I want to divulge once we see the whole thing.
Gotcha. Alice said, I am so sorry, please. Poop jokes are a joke to Martin and should not exist. I'm gonna go take 5 minutes off the screen for what I said. Okay, that's funny. That is funny there.
You must have been living here on change.
Like, what I'm feeling here is
Life forms
I'm feeling King Kong meets Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right on.
in a controlled environment.
What I got in there, King Kong.
Hundreds of centuries are looking down at us.
I hate to say this. I really do. I hate fucking saying this. But when it comes to America, these smaller budget films are the one with most sincerity in them than a lot of the stuff you get in theaters and big budgets.
Well, that's because now the film business really is run more like a business than it is like a way to live out your dreams and get your art out there and get out the product you're trying to put out and what you want to make. It's more like, no, you have to do this, you have to do this, focus group here, focus group there, according to the chart. It's just like, it's this mountain full of these people telling you have to climb this way, whereas when it comes to the smaller indie things like what this is, there's people on the mountain throw you a rope saying, come up here, let's make something special together.
Exactly. And that's, to be fair, that's also what your parents said when they were making you, Cody. But
hey, my mommy says I'm special.
But when it comes to these movies, like, for example, take Marvel, for example. The source material has all this wild fucking shit they could take up. Santa Claus is in Marvel Comics. And the movies only go around and adapt, like, they're still goofy, but they adapt the less seen as goofy things just so the general audience doesn't freak out. And that's one of the things I like about stuff like Kamen Rider and Super Sentai in comparison.
Oh, God.
No, I mean, this is true. Like, they'll throw everything out under the sun at you with their goof, with some crazy shit. Sometimes it's cool. Sometimes it's just absurd. Sometimes all that. And then you have, like, even when we do Godzilla films, like, we get things like the new monsters like the Muto, or even stuff like the Behemoth that isn't all that interesting. And I think it's all to try to appeal to the mainstream. Like, maybe I'm just a hipster, but... Well, not a hipster, but a contrarian, but...
No. You're a weeb. Trevor's the hipster and the contrarian.
Well,
I'll accept that title.
Well, contrarian also works in this regard, because the thing is, this is an American film that's low budget that I'm going all over about on the sincerity and such. What, Trevor?
You could...
Oh,
Inception was low budget.
Yeah, like, here's the thing. This is what I'm going on about. This product feels like something epic, but also, like, it's low budget being pushed to its limits. It
feels genuine.
Yes, that's what I look for in film. Something that feels genuine.
A certain sincerity that's lost nowadays.
Yes. Everything feels like a fucking product. This doesn't. This is
for sure.
Wait, holy shit! Did you see how smooth he blinked that eye?
Show again.
See how smooth that was?
Smooth as the other side of the pillow.
Smooth as your mom's vagina.
Why do it?
Oh man. Oh man.
Johnny said, I hope a film company picks up the animated Gorgo project by Titanic Creations. I can agree with that. That would be awesome. Something that something that's bigger. That's something I would like, yes.
That would be cool, because while Gorgo itself looks awesome, everything else in that teaser they showed us needs a bit of work, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But to be fair, so does your face.
What about my face?
But we'll let you go first, Trevor, since you've been quiet.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh no, it's fine, guys. I was just soaking everything in. So yeah, this did have a fundraiser back in 2018. Unfortunately, they didn't meet their goal, but thankfully they pressed on forward with it, which I'm glad. It took them a while. It took them longer because they didn't have the money that they aimed for, but this was basically a passion project for everyone involved, for Charles Band, for Chris Endicott, who is or was David Allen's protege, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone who worked on this, they were basically doing it for free, more or less, to finish it.
Yes, and that's the thing. That's the thing here. All that shows in this movie, it's all sincerity. Like, it doesn't look as quote unquote real as the best effects in Hollywood, but in their own sense, they're just as good because you feel limits are being pushed. That's what needs to be done. That's what art is. It's pushing limits, whether or not you have billions of dollars or just a few million in your pocket.
Something I gotta point out is I love how batshit insane this movie could get and probably will, because in addition to the Yeti and fighting that valley, you also have these fucking little lizard people who look cool, whether they're a puppet or a guy in a suit or stop motion, depending on the shot. And they have these medieval weapons they use, like swords, spears, and shit. Like, we don't know if they're the aliens from that flying saucer they saw. Maybe they are, or maybe they're residents of the valley. And then you see that saucer, and you're like, there's fucking aliens in this shit, or there could be. You have alien technology, possibly aliens themselves, possibly people living in this valley, lizard people living in the valley, and then you have the Yeti. Holy shit. That's all fucking cool. This looks so fucking cool.
Well, like I said, I'm stoked for it because, like I said, it feels like there's a lot of sincerity in this movie, and that's what I want on art. I don't care if you have millions of dollars to throw at the screen. I just care what you can do with that wallet of yours. That's all I fucking want.
Oh, I agree full-heartedly, but also, as a storyteller myself, I like versatility in storytelling and creativity in storytelling and all that stuff that I was pointing out before.
Stuff that isn't in Hollywood anymore.
Yes, all that stuff that I pointed out and said looked cool to me, that's all seems to be present in what I was saying I wanted. And I'm like, all that looks cool, and like you said, there seems to be such passion and sincerity about it. And Trevor pointed out how long they've been working on this shit and that they've been working on it for free. And I'm just like, holy shit. This movie seems like a fucking godsend.
Yeah, like, it has potential. I'll say it now. It has potential to be the best thing Full Moon ever released, even with their older stuff considered. Because there's a lot of that vibe of King Kong meets Jurassic Park in there, and that's something that makes it where
with aliens.
Yeah, aliens with aliens and there. But,
well, I definitely think the Jurassic Park part of it comes from the whole 90s feel to it, because again, technically this movie is actually from 1994. It only just now completed its effect, so it's really, again, like a lost relic. So the 90s thing of it comes from, or the Jurassic Park part of it comes from the whole 90s vibe. But for the King Kong thing, I should mention the animator and also the director of this movie, David Allen. He was basically, his whole career as a stop motion animator was inspired by seeing the original King Kong, much the same way as Ray Harryhausen. And for those who don't know,
oh wow,
yeah, for those who don't know, Ray Harryhausen Basically is one of the most influential elements in my creative pursuits. Pretty much anything that has stop motion in it, I'm on it like a tick on a dog, I guess you could say. So anytime, even no matter how big or small the use of stop motion is, I always appreciate it because that art form really fascinates me. So that's actually how I kind of found out about this, is because, you know, I saw all of Ray's films and I was like, okay, I want more. And I found out that there were other animators, other stop motion animators out there. They didn't have near as prolific as careers as Ray did, but they still made an impact. In David Allen's case, he was lucky that he found Charles Band. It's funny, you know, Ray Harryhausen's career basically wouldn't exist without finding Charles Sneer. And then, you know, in the case of David Allen, he wouldn't have had the career that he did without finding Charles Band. So Charles.
So the moral of the story is, if you like stop motion, go find someone named Charles who will fund your shit.
Exactly. And see, that's the one reason why, even if they didn't meet their goal for the crowdfunder, the fundraiser, Charles Band really wants to get this out there because he was really close with David Allen. He was very affected by his death, which I should say, it's very unfortunate that David Allen didn't get to see his passion project come to the screen, because he died of cancer back in 1999. There's some people close to him that believe that the disappointment and sadness of not seeing the film completed sooner actually contributed to his cancer, and so he went sooner than he probably was going to.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's very sad.
That's fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah, but on that note, David Allen was trying to get this movie made for years. It goes all the way back to the 60s. Hammer Films almost made it, but basically they zeroed in on one part of his original pitch, which opened with this scene of these Zeppelins being attacked by pterodactyls before the main characters crash into the valley. And basically Hammer took that one part of the script and they made a poster out of it and said, okay, we're just going to do the part that's about Zeppelins versus pterodactyls. Of course, they never actually ended up doing that. But, you know, so he wasn't able to do it with Hammer. They basically dismissed the project, which was, at that time, it had like a different feel. It was a period piece. It had a lot more creatures in it. And so whenever David met Charles in the 70s, and they worked on a couple of films like Laser Blast and The Day That Time Ended, which David's work can be seen in those films too. He asked Charles, okay, this is something that I've been trying to get going. Do you think we can do this? And so actually the earliest phase of the Primevals started in the late 70s. There was even a Starlog magazine, which, for those who don't know, that's more of like a sci-fi version of Fangoria before Fangoria. There was like a whole spread in Starlog magazine about the version of the project then in the 70s. And there's like set pics of, you know, the miniatures and whatnot, details about scenes that didn't actually end up in the film. Like, you know, that one scene that we saw in the trailer with them on the raft.
Yeah.
There was supposed to be a scene with this thing called the river lizard, which was this really cool dinosaur looking thing that was supposed to menace the explorers. But they unfortunately didn't have the money to do that even then, whenever they actually started filming it. There's a scene like whenever they're in the caves about to meet the lizard people. They have a name. Unfortunately, it's escaping me at the moment. They were supposed to run into this spider-like thing, almost kind of like Planet of the Dinosaurs, but much more alien and much more impressive, I guess you'd say. Yeah. So I'm kind of all over the place. I apologize, y'all.
No,
you're fine.
This is a podcast. We're all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
But as something I wanted to say with, like, on that superhero thing I was saying earlier, I wanted to say this with it, because this, I think, is the prime example of Hollywood being out of ideas. I mean, of Hollywood lacking sincerity now. Sonic. Like that new design was fucking ugly. I'm not going to deny it, but the fact they had to change it due to backlash, like, many people were partying about that, but as Chris Stuckman said, it's shown the control audiences have over the artists nowadays. and that's not a good thing. Like, yeah, it's nice that the audience is considered, but I also want the artists to be able to put their own spin on something. This is art. It's not just a product.
Oh, for sure. And I agree with you, Joey, but it is what it is. And I think the fans won out. And I mean, they deserve it to an extent because, I mean, look, I mean, they changed that design for Sonic and it got a sequel and it's going to get a third one too. So it is what it is.
And a TV show.
Yeah, exactly. So it was meant to be. I may have had misgivings with how that was approached, but I think what's meant to be is meant to be. And here we are with that, you know?
Exactly. But basically, I just like, when it comes to this, like, I prefer the Sonic design they went with, but I also want to keep consistent on the thing that even when I prefer something, the artist did not want to make that design. They wanted to make their own vision of that design.
Yeah, but here's the thing that's wrong with that particular thing, Joey. That wasn't an artistic decision. It was a fact of, we're going to spite the people and do it our own way because according to the charts, this is what we have to do it. We have to make this thing look, quote unquote, realistic, because the more cartoonish Sonic that they went with, like the dimensions and the way it was supposed to move, worked for that character as is. But if a creature like that were to exist in real life, it would probably look something more akin to the ugly Sonic, because the ugly Sonic had dimensions and movements that are more akin to what real life creatures look like or move like.
Yeah,
so
they might have added that. Like, even that design might have been done.
It was a very corporate. It was a very corporate thing on that part.
Okay,
and
that is true. But still,
actually, to that point, Cody, I think you're right. I actually think the whole thing, in hindsight, was a ruse. I think they did that so that they would get attention on the movie, and I think they were always going to go with the more traditional design. They just did that to, again, because think about it, it paid off, because who was going to pay attention to a live action Sonic movie until they did that? And then, well, hey, we see the results.
Yeah, it was a box office success. Probably would have done better if COVID hadn't happened, like right around the tail end of its theatrical run.
Yeah, but like let's say that they didn't always have that planned. Even if, like, I do agree with you, like, having it look more realistic, yeah, that is a corporate decision. But still, audiences pressuring them into changing it is also a corporate decision. So I see what Stuckman meant in that regard, as it's still a prime example of audience over artist nowadays.
Indeed.
Fair enough.
But when it comes to this movie in particular, I'm hyped for it. Like I said, I think you can definitely tell there's a lot of inspiration from King Kong and maybe even Jurassic Park in there, but you, Trevor, pointed out that Jurassic Park feel mostly probably comes from the 90s. Now, I wanted to say this on the stop motion thing. There's probably going to be people like, oh, it doesn't look real. It's like, no shit, it's not supposed to look real. It's supposed to look like stuff Ray Harryhausen or Willis O'Brien would make. And that's what
Yeah, and also, Joey, you were saying there at the end with that one shot with how smooth it was. There was another magazine article sometime in the late 90s where David Allen was interviewed, and he was saying some of the shots that we have in this are by far the smoothest stop motion has ever looked. So they were basically kind of on the cutting edge and advancing the field, the art form with this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and also just real quick to wrap up the bit of history with the whole movie. So they finally got it going in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the location shots for this movie were filmed in Romania, and it turns out they basically didn't have the exact resources they needed to match the scope of the project. So they basically spent pretty much all the money that Full Moon had at that time. This was their most expensive and most grand movie. And that's honestly why it was kind of shelved, because they weren't able to work on the stop motion effects because they didn't have any more money. And that this impacted the rest of the Full Moon catalog. The reason why you see a sudden shift in the quality of Full Moon's product is because this movie, tested their limits. And
so that's why Full Moon sucks now?
Yeah. And so in a way, it's kind of a godsend, or, meant to be, that this actually ended up getting finished, because it's like this was pretty much going to be Full Moon's magnum opus. And to an extent, it kind of is, because this is a flashback to a quality that Full Moon hasn't had in years, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, exactly. They've been awful in recent years. They've been worse than The Asylum, I'd go as far as saying. And that's something that, like, this movie, I actually think it should have a limited run in theaters. That's something I would go to see. But the thing is, it's not going to get that, unfortunately, which sucks. Like, I would like to actually see that on the big screen, especially with how epic it looks. Something that's fun and adventurous. Something that's an old time capsule to the 1990s. But you know what?
And even older, too.
Huh?
And even older, too, because, I mean, even by the 90s, stop motion was definitely passé. So this was kind of like the bridging of two worlds, if you think about it.
Exactly.
And also, you have to take into account what Trevor was talking about, how David was trying to get this movie made even before the 90s.
Exactly. And the thing about the effects, like, yeah, the style of effects, even for the 90s, were like, stop motion was out of style, quote unquote, because they had more realistic effects now, like suitmation and animatronics. But the thing is, the whole point of what this stuff is to do, it isn't to look real, but to capture that old Ray Harryhausen and Willis O'Brien like thing going for it, but also smoothing it up a bit for what modern day was able to do for it. And that's something that I'm really seeing here, and that's what I appreciate. But the thing is, you have that general audience dumbassery that's like, good effects are supposed to look real. No, they're not always supposed to look real.
Yeah, here's a good example of movie with good effects but doesn't look real. The newest Dungeons and Dragons movie. Nothing in that movie looks real, and you're high as a kite if you're going to try and tell me otherwise. But still looks good because it envelops you in this fantasy world that the characters are able to touch and interact with, and thus through the characters, you're able to feel like you could touch and interact with it too. It feels like an animated world come to life, sort of like like what people think the Warcraft movie should have been, and to an extent was, even though people say that movie's bad. I actually like the Warcraft movie. That's another good example of effects that don't look real but still look good, because again, it convinces you that these human beings are interacting with all these things that should not be.
Exactly. And that's why I kept going on about how there's so much sincerity in this movie, but I can't help myself, because again, like, this doesn't look as quote unquote real as even the worst effects in big budget Hollywood, besides maybe The Flash. But it looks better because what you're seeing here feels like they were pushing boundaries with what they've had. And that's what I seek. If I see a hundreds of millions of dollar movie, like, even if it looks quote unquote more real, it's still, on the other hand, I don't feel like I'm watching art, because I'm not feeling any boundaries being pushed, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And to your point, Joey, Ray Harryhausen even said one reason why he preferred stop motion, aside from the fact that was what he was an expert in, is that the stop motion lends a fantasy quality to the work. It's supposed to be a fantasy. It's not supposed to be photoreal. That's actually part of the whole charm of it, and that's why it's so unique. If it just blends into all the other CG stuff that we see, it's not special anymore. It's just a product. It's part of the assembly line.
Exactly. People could call me a film snob all they want, but I'm really just a passionate nerd that likes to see what passionate filmmakers put to life and appreciate what they are giving.
Oh, and I'd like to say, if you think that things that have special effects in it that don't look real are bad, then by that definition, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a terrible movie.
I've been trying to say that for a while. Like, for example, with animation, like, some people would bash special effects in TV shows because they don't look as real as movies, but they will watch animation in TV shows and be perfectly fine with it not looking like an animated movie.
Some people, you know.
And even in that regard, if you want everything to look real, don't watch animation, because if they go like animation's not supposed to look real, well, not all movies are supposed to look real either.
Yeah, better yet, just don't watch movies. Watch documentaries on the channels that have them if that's what you're looking for. Don't expect something from a piece of art that's not delivering that.
Or better yet, don't watch anything. Just go back to your boring ass fucking life and do boring ass adult bullshit.
Yeah, it's escapism.
Quote,
That's
unquote.
the thing.
Exactly.
But now I want to talk about your contribution into this Kickstarter, Trevor. Like, what made you want to do it? Your history with this movie, your interest in it, all of that stuff.
Tell us.
Oh, it's like I said. Basically, Ray put me on the path to being completely fascinated by anything stop motion. So I found out about his protege, Jim Danforth. Jim Danforth was really good friends with David Allen. In fact, if they had worked together more often, they could have achieved even greater things than they did. Jim Danforth's problem was that he was kind of an asshole. He told you what he was thinking no matter what, and that's what kept him from working. David Allen, on the other hand, he was a lot more compliant, like Ray, and he was willing to work on a team. So that's why he, had a somewhat fruitful career with Charles Band. At least, you remember his works once you find out about him. So yeah, I can't remember exactly when I found out about the Primevals. It was probably like on a forum or in a magazine somewhere talking about these lost projects, stop motion related, that never came to be. But I found out about it and I read into it and was like, wow, this sounds like this amazing missed opportunity that apparently is just sitting on a shelf somewhere, not getting done. So right around the time Charles Band started putting out more Blu-rays of his movies, one of those was Robot Wars, and that features some of David's work on the robots in that movie. And there was a little featurette on said Blu-ray that basically announced that Charles Band was going to look into completing the Primevals. It was a nice little spotlight on David Allen as a whole, and he said this is mostly David's magnum opus that he never got the chance to finish, and unfortunately won't get to see. But we're going to finish it for him as a tribute. And so that's whenever the Kickstarter came up. They had all these great perks. Some of them were just outrageously expensive, and not necessarily expensive, but they were some really nice things, like a bronze collectible of one of the lizard guys, and also a Yeti statue. There were some really nice perks for that. But for me, I'm really just fine with the movie itself. So I laid down money for the Blu-ray, which is going to have an in-depth documentary on it that goes into the history of the project and probably talks about how they finished it too. So really, it's not so much that I contributed to it, but I asked for Christmas that year in 2018. I asked, people, could you contribute to this fundraiser? And that's all I want for this year. That's pretty much how much this kind of stuff means to me. It's like, hey, I don't want anything else. Please just give money to this and see if you can contribute to it being finished.
I know exactly. I can definitely understand that, because here's the thing, like, this movie, like any Christmas gift that's handed to you physically, you're going to have that for the rest of your life. While something like when it comes to contributions to this movie, though, if you don't contribute to that Kickstarter right then and there, it might not ever happen. So
exactly. And they didn't meet their goal, but they were very insistent on saying, okay, we got some money. It's not everything that we wanted. But we're going to use what we got, and we're going to finish it to the best of our ability. There's actually supposed to be another version of the movie on the Blu-ray that will have storyboards for the scenes that they weren't able to complete. So basically, basically the cut that they have, it works. It works as a movie, but they're going to have a version where they insert, concept art that David made, and other little things that give you a general idea of what it could have been had all the cards lined up. But the movie they have, it works as it is. They have a cut that, it works as a movie. It's not like some unfinished thing that they're putting out there. So yeah, it's going to be neat to see the two versions and see what could have been, but also have something that hopefully will be a new classic.
Yeah, like, I hope it really does, because like I said, what makes this film stand out is its sincerity. Like, I don't know, I don't know if you were able to tell from my reaction, but whenever I see film with sincerity, like so much effort put in, I get very giddy. That's how I do, because it's like, I don't feel like I'm just experiencing a product. I feel like I'm experiencing art sold as a product rather than just a product, if that makes sense.
Oh, dude, I feel ya. The whole time I was watching the trailer, I was just like, holy shit, this is actually happening. This is something people went out of their way to put their hard work into. They put their heart and soul into this, and it clearly shows in every single second, every frame, everything. Oh my god. Holy shit.
And they're not getting paid to finish this. They did it because they love David so much. This is their tribute to him. And to your point, Joey, I've actually been talking about this on Twitter with other people. Given the movies and the mainstream movies that have been underperforming lately, mostly because their budgets are so crazy that they can't possibly make a profit. Here's an example, even though this movie is almost 30 years old, technically. Here's an example of people finishing something and making it work based on the limited resources they have. They're not just wildly spending this money that doesn't necessarily, the results don't necessarily show up on the screen. They're actually putting forth the work because they have to use those finite resources in order to get it done.
Yeah, exactly. Like, here's the thing. I'm not saying more money makes your thing inferior. In fact, having more money can make it where you could do more crazy shit. Like, they would have been able to do more crazy shit with this movie if they had more contributors to the Kickstarter. But the thing is, I want you to have sincerity with that money. That's what I want you to do. I don't want the money to be what's making the movie. I want talented people making movies with that money.
Exactly. Oh, and Joey, to your point about you would like to see this in theaters. Well, I think this trailer, one reason why it was taking so long, aside from them touching everything up and making sure everything was just right, Charles Band wanted to make sure everything was lined up to release it the way he wanted to. So, do you have the trailer up? Do you have it handy still?
Yeah, I have it handy.
Yeah, bring it up. I think it may even be on the thumbnail. It says what film festival it's going to debut at.
Okay.
Or it may be in the info box too.
Okay. Let me bring that screen back up. I'm gonna have to zoom in.
While you're doing that, I've got to say something. I gotta say something about this movie when I do get to see it. I think the only drawback will be I'm gonna end up pausing it a lot to take down notes because it looks like one of those kind of movies. Like there are certain movies where I pause movies because they make me seeing the creativity on screen and what all they're doing. It fascinates me so much. It makes me want to get up and do my own work, make my own content. Because as you guys know, and some of you might know, I'm a writer. I have stuff that's actually been published. I'm working on my first novel right now. And when I see passion projects like this movie or something that's so creative, so fantastical, that so engaging, eye-catching, all that good stuff. It's like it's just so good. It's like I should make something like this. I want to make something like this. It's like I'm gonna go make something like this. It's like wait, the movie's not over. Oh shit!
Yeah,
that's the magic of these things, man. Is that this is inspiring? Think about it. Without King Kong, or without King Kong, there would be no Ray Harryhausen or David Allen in this case, and without those guys' works, there wouldn't be the modern blockbusters that we like so much. I mean, it's all this stuff is innately inspiring.
Absolutely.
So is this the festival right here?
Yes, sir. The Fantasia Film Festival. In fact, could you click on it and go down to the info box?
Yeah, I 100% can.
Good.
Do it.
Okay.
Come on, do it now.
It saddens me that this is an official trailer and only 12K people saw this. And
well, we got to be honest. Even though we're looking really forward to it, I think it is going to be all said and done a niche kind of thing. It appeals to only certain people, but at least it'll be out there, you know.
The general audience doesn't like sincerity. The general audience sucks.
I agree.
The The general audience is too busy jerking themselves off in the corner about how much their life sucks.
Yeah, okay. There we go, Joey. Yeah, so decades in the making, world premiere of David Allen's The Primevals will happen as part of the 2023 Fantasia International Film Festival. Okay, so if it's international, that means a lot of different people from across the world, when they attend, they'll be able to see it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if it comes near me, I'd be more than willing to go see this film because we don't get stuff like this anymore.
Exactly. And so, even though I contribute, what my perk was going to be a Blu-ray that will basically just be sent to me as soon as they get it done. This will be released on disc regardless, and it will be also on streaming, because Full Moon has its own section on a lot of the different services like Tubi and whatnot. I'm sure it's going to pop up there too.
Yep.
Oh, I hope it gets on Tubi. I really do. I want to see this movie so bad. I can taste it.
The only flaw in old school Full Moon that modern Full Moon doesn't have, like the only flaw this is gonna have is since it's older, is you know what it is?
What?
No Robin Sydney.
Oh yeah. Well, at that time, Joey, I believe the Full Moon It Girl was Charlie Spradlin. I believe that was her name. She was a babe too, to be honest.
Yeah, and Robin Sydney, I'll be honest, definitely an attractive woman.
Well, for sure.
Her nudes, oh my god. Okay, I'm starting to become a degenerate on the. Wait, I'm already been a degenerate on the podcast. Let's be honest.
I was about to say, what do you mean starting?
Yeah, there's plenty of evidence against you, my friend. I'm sorry.
Alice said, "Fun fact about me: I prefer to slaughter movies, not befriending them. Give me a Santa fun and really, I don't know what you're saying, bro."
Okay.
I don't know what you're saying, bro. No offense. I just don't know what you're saying.
So anyway, Joe, I think you were bringing this up in the Discord. You were joking. You were saying if this movie sucks, you're gonna blame it on us or on me.
Yes.
I know you're joking, but I think we should also bear in mind, even though I'm very affectionate for this period in Full Moon's history, there will probably be some cheese, but I feel like we've been saying, I feel like there will be definite sincerity in this project once we actually get to see it. Because again, this is what David Allen was basically working towards his entire life. And unfortunately, again, he didn't get to see it because the crushing disappointment of not seeing it completed sooner contributed to his illness. And that's the known fact, is that people who are suffering from terminal illnesses, if something really affects them emotionally, it will actually worsen the condition. So
broken heart syndrome.
Yeah, like even if the movie sucks, I'm glad that his dream is finally getting put to screen.
Well, see, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, besides, what's a sandwich without some cheese?
Exactly. Cheese isn't always a bad thing.
And I don't think it will suck like really bad. It will just be a Full Moon product from the 90s. It's basically a movie lost in time that's finally showing up at our doorstep, so to speak. And we're getting to see what could have been. I mean, it exists, but it's going to be received in a different way than it may have necessarily if it had been released originally sometime in the 90s. Who knows? Had this movie came out when it was originally intended, had they been able to complete it sooner, it might have gave Full Moon like a whole new phase to their entire stint in the filmmaking business, But as
a new lease on life, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. But as it stands, unfortunately, they weren't able to see it complete then, and it resulted in what we saw that came afterwards. So it could have gone either way. Really, this movie, in a sense, is kind of the fate of Full Moon, if you think about it.
Yeah. I'll be right back, guys. You keep talking.
All right. So yeah, it's like if this does, once it gets out there and once it reaches a certain audience, who's to say that it won't still give Full Moon a new life?
Could be. That's always possible. Okay, now that Joey's gone, let's talk about what a bitch he is. I mean, he's always going around whining in the corner, jerking himself off, going like, "I'm a big boy, aren't I, mommy?" It's like, it's really pathetic. What's wrong with that guy? Trevor, do you know what way we can help him?
I think he's beyond help, my friend. We just have to sit back and watch the car crash.
Yeah. I'll get the popcorn.
I
I'm sorry.
I say that with love, Joey, whenever you listen to this back.
I'm sorry, but whenever he walks away or something like that, I have to take shots at him. It's become sort of a thing here now.
Oh yeah,
but,
it's one of our staples.
Yes, but now in all seriousness, Full Moon. This movie looks like it's going to be so great. I honestly don't think it's going to suck at all. I know there's a chance that it will. It's like the ending scene from the movie Fanboys when they finally go to see the Phantom Menace, and right before it starts, one guy's like, "Hey guys, what if the movie sucks?"
Yeah, exactly. So I'll ask you this, Cody. How well do you remember the first 5 Puppet Masters?
I've only seen the first Puppet Master.
Only the first one? Okay. Well, I would go ahead.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's like. It's not that I'm not interested. It's just like when it comes to me, there's so many things like I like or seem interesting to me, things I'm into, things I want to get into, that some things just sort of slip through the cracks. And unfortunately, the Puppet Master is one of those things, along with, as you found out yesterday, Doctor Who. But I did catch the first Puppet Master when it was on AMC during a horror movie marathon on Halloween Day one year.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So I was asking because I think David's only other directing credit is for Puppet Master 2. And if I'm being honest, I think Puppet Master 2 might be my favorite one of that bunch. Of the first 5, really after the 5th movie, in my opinion, Puppet Master kind of sails off a cliff and there's not much value after that. It was Charlie Band trying to milk the franchise that kind of made Full Moon, and they just didn't have the resources to really do it anymore. But I feel like the first 5 Puppet Masters, those are pretty solid. To be honest, they could have combined 4 and 5, but still overall, those first 5 are probably some of the best things Full Moon did. And so, yeah, going by Puppet Master 2 alone, I think the movie's in good hands in terms of directing, not only just doing the special effects, but he also directed this too.
Rock on. I do want to see some of the other Puppet Master movies eventually. Like, I definitely want to see the next 2, and then maybe the 2 after that. And then, depending on how the rest of the series goes, assuming I get to see it, maybe continue on to the end just for sick curiosity's sake. It's sort of like, I guess at some point I'll end up being a masochist because I'm like, and now Puppet Master 17.
Well, hey,
but yeah.
I'm kind of a completionist too, at least whenever I'm first going through a series. And then after that, I figure out, okay, I'm good with this and I don't have to see the rest of these.
I understand fully. Much respect.
So basically what I'm saying is, at worst, this will still be a very entertaining Full Moon movie from basically their golden era. And at best, it's going to be something that really excelled their entire output.
Right on.
At best, you're going to see a sincere monster movie, a sincere action-adventure escapist film.
Exactly.
And that's what I want. That's what all media needs to be. And this limits pushing. That's, again, I can't stretch that enough. It's exactly what the trailer's bringing it on to be. They're pushing limits with the special effects and everything. Now, I will say the acting looks a bit average, but here's the thing. I kind of expected that. Even back in the day, the best you got with Full Moon acting was usually average performances, besides the better actors like Andre Toulon's character.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Let's just call a spade. Let's call a spade a spade. Full Moon was always just glorified B movies.
Yeah, exactly. The B movies could have good acting and such, but
that's
definitely
true.
Andre Toulon's actor was very good.
Mm-hmm. Now, look, with this movie, I'm not expecting like Gone with the Wind or anything. I just want to be entertained and have fun, and I think, judging by that trailer, that's exactly what I'm going to get from this movie. So, if that's all that happens, at least it was fun and entertaining. then at least it was fun and entertaining. I'm not looking for anything more from this movie.
Well, like I said, here's the thing. Like, I'll say the acting being average is enough for me to say it's not going to be a masterpiece. But let's ignore the acting part and talk about everything else. If this film exceeds at being a fun, dumb escapist film, it can be a masterpiece in that category because there is value to that type of simplicity. Not everything needs to be super serious and dark and along those lines. Sometimes things just want to be fun and things like that. And if it's like that, it just has to be the best in its category. It's not comparable to something that's trying to be dark. Doing that doesn't make it inferior to something that's trying to be more dark and serious.
Well, honestly, I wouldn't take the movie seriously, even if that's what it was asking of me.
Yeah, well, if that was the case, I think that would kind of be a bad thing, but it doesn't look like it's trying to be that serious. It looks like it's just trying to be a fun, escapist film.
Absolutely.
Well, sorry, Cody, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with Joey. You go ahead.
Yeah, so let's think about it. Basically, the DNA of King Kong is in all these memorable stop motion projects, right? And if we look at the original King Kong, it was a boundary pusher, or not a boundary pusher, but a trendsetter, I guess you say. It broke the mold of what was possible at that point in time in film history. But if we look at it basically for what it is, it's a B movie, a very well made B movie, but it's still a B movie and it's campy. It has all those ingredients that we've seen time and again.
I think it's what kickstarted the blockbuster.
Yeah, it's just one of the originals. So really, if this movie comes anywhere near matching that, I think it achieved its goal.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, and even when it comes to the acting performances, in context, they might be better than what they seem on the trailer. Because, for example, the trailer to The Flash, this is putting my hatred towards Ezra Miller, my dislike towards Ezra Miller as an actor, as a person aside. I thought his acting looked bad, but I have seen people say he did fine to even good. So maybe in context, he's better in the movie. And the same might go here with the actors. Basically, you got to interpret what the actor's trying to do with that performance and whether or not they executed it.
Basically take it at face value and judge it accordingly.
Exactly. That's real film critique right there.
Right on.
Completely.
Alice said, "Do you know a place where I can watch the movie? Where are you found the gorilla monkey thing?" Sorry, I skipped to the end. Do you have a place where I can watch the gorilla movie? I don't know what that is. Are you talking about the Primevals? That's not out yet, bro. It's still upcoming.
Yeah, I was about to say it's making its premiere at this film festival, and then we'll find out afterwards whenever it's going to release elsewhere.
Yeah. Also, Trevor,
Alice,
when this movie comes out... No, you finished, Cody?
Alice, here's what I suggest you do. See as how you want to skip to the live sections and interact with us as we're saying things, which is totally perfectly fine. I completely get it. After we're done here, go back and then rewatch this whole thing. I think you might get a kick out of it.
I agree. Well said, Cody. Well said. But yeah, when it comes to this movie, as I was about to say, Trevor, I have two ideas. When it's out, you should review this on your channel, bro. You contributed to it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because there's a lot of history that I could get into.
Yeah, put that on your channel. I'll edit it for you, and bam.
And who knows, it may not even have to be just a straight-on review. If you don't think there's enough material for a review, you could just make it a retrospective with critical analysis attached.
Yeah. Make whatever you want, bro. Be like the creators of this movie. Make what you want to make.
Don't worry, be happy.
Yes.
Don't worry, be happy now.
Like Trevor?
I said thank you, Bob Marley.
He actually didn't do that song. I know that's the common misconception, so I'm not going to fault you, but just a little fun fact, he did not do this song.
Then who was this mastermind?
Hold on, I have a Wikipedia opened up here as is, because I was researching Full Moon. Don't worry, be... Oh. It was done by Bobby McFerrin, and it was released in 1988, and which was a few years actually after Bob Marley's tragic death.
Okay, I got you. The more you know, right?
Yep.
For sure.
But you guys have anything more to say about the Primevals?
No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad it has finally seen the light of day.
Yeah. What about you, Cody?
It's a fucking miracle. It looks like it's going to be a wonderful, fun time, and I cannot wait to see this. Oh my God.
I agree. With the three of us, alongside anyone else who wants to join, should set up a watch party on the Discord server when it's out.
For sure.
Okay. But next, this is a movie that I'm very interested in. I'm sure you guys are too, because it's the major return of Miki Saigusa's actress from the 90s Godzilla movies, Megumi Odaka, and it's this upcoming kaiju film that looks better than I expected, Hoshi 35.
Yeah, when you first mentioned that the movie that she was acting in a movie again, there was so little about it that I'm not going to admit. I'm going to admit I was kind of not taking it seriously. I was kind of dismissive. I'm like, yeah, sure, there's a movie coming out starring Megumi Odaka. But then slowly more and more stuff started coming out about it. I'm like, holy shit, there's a new kaiju movie coming out starring Megumi Odaka. So for that, I'm sorry, Joey. I'm sorry. I'll take my L publicly right here.
Yes. We're gonna wait a bit because Trevor right now has to use the bathroom, so don't want to turn this on without him, because pretty sure he's gonna be interested in this just as much as we are, since he's also a fellow kaiju and tokusatsu nerd.
Right on. Dropping a shit. Probably gonna name it Joey.
Okay.
So, for those, let's do a little edumacating. Megumi Odaka started her career in the mid to late 80s, I think, as a Japanese teen pop idol. She was making songs, making records and all that. And typically when it comes in Japan, the next phase of the whole idol thing is to start starring in movies. And she started one, I think, called The Moon Princess before moving on to her first Godzilla movie, which was Godzilla vs. Biollante, which was released in 1989. And at first, she was really scared of the Godzilla suit. There's actually behind the scenes footage that's really adorable of her, like, cowering in fear of it. She's like, oh my gosh! But then she got to know this guy in the suit, Kenji Satsuma, I think his name is.
Kinshipiro Satsuma. Yes,
Yeah,
and it was adorable.
And anyways, she got to know him, and they became friends. And from that moment on, wasn't scared of the suit anymore because she knew that in that suit was her new friend. And
yes, they should make a movie about that. Like, that would make a heartwarming movie.
Yeah, based on true events. The story of how a scared little Japanese girl trying to make it in the big world of Japanese cinema, music, all that, came to become friends with a man inside a monster.
Yeah.
No, don't take it that way. But anyways, that could totally be a movie all on its own, and I'd pay good money to see it. Oh, and
also, fun fact, Cody, you brought up Princess from the Moon. The main character in that movie, the actress, Yusuke Noguchi, I think. I can't remember. Am I right, Joey? Yeah, she was also in The Return of Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Biollante.
Yeah,
she was out.
Yep. You might also know that actress as the mother in Spirited Away.
Holy shit, man! I gotta see the Princess from the Moon now because
I have a bootleg of it, or I say a bootleg. It was imported from Japan. It's a Japanese DVD.
What's your thoughts on it, Trevor? Because I want to see that movie.
Well, okay. So the print of the movie could be better, and that kind of affects the watchability. But I think that movie was made it was supposed to be, it's a period piece, but it's kind of evoking that E.T. feel. Toshiro Mifune's in that movie too. It's actually quite emotional. I actually kind of got choked up at the end of it last time I watched it, but it's funny. I got it because, you know, there was a prop in that movie that was supposed to be used in the Hammer Toho co-production of Nessie, and they ended up using that prop as a sea dragon in that movie. But yeah, it's not used very well. That was my superficial reason for seeking that movie out. But then I actually watched the movie itself, and I was like, well, damn, this is actually a very good sci-fi period drama. I say sci-fi because the audience knows that the princess from the moon, and obviously from the title, is from outer space, but the characters in the movie don't necessarily know that at first. So it's very interesting. It has some Superman parallels, you know, the whole idea of someone coming from another planet and being raised by a humble couple, you know, that kind of thing.
You know what that kind of... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's basically Superman meets Cinderella, if you can picture that, but Japanese.
Yeah,
you know what that kind of reminds me of? This movie almost sounds like it's a precursor to Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the best ways. I used to hate Sailor Moon, but I finally sat down to give the show a chance, and while the action isn't anything to write home about, it's really the story, the writing for the story, and even to an extent the characters that really carries that show. So I'm saying to everyone who didn't like Sailor Moon before, give it a second chance. You might be surprised.
I want to give it a shot because it was like the person who made Sailor Moon, I forgot her name. She grew up and still is a massive fan of Super Sentai. So when she made Sailor Moon, she wanted to make the magical girl equivalent to Super Sentai. You could even see her standing with the Jew Rangers, which eventually got turned into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, in a photo, because that's what Sailor Moon was made as, was the magical girl / anime equivalent to Super Sentai.
Wow, no wonder it caught on so well in the 90s here in America, where most animes failed, because Power Rangers was such a big deal at the time. And
yeah, I can definitely see that.
Same. Unless anyone has anything else, I wanted to finish my brief history of Megumi Odaka. And unless anyone had anything else they want to say.
No, finish.
Oh, okay. So, after starting in Godzilla vs. Biollante, she basically made the full transition away from music to acting, and for the most part, she stuck to reprising the role of Miki Sagusa in the Heisei era. It's kind of like, even though Toho recycled actors from old movies before, and would continue to do so again, and even after the Heisei series, they were playing different characters, as opposed to Megumi Odaka, who played Mickey all the way through the entire 90s series. And that way, she's sort of like the Donald Pleasant / Dr. Loomis equivalent for Godzilla. Because, you know, Donald Pleasance played Dr. Sam Loomis in the first 6 Halloween movies. No, 5 of the original 6 Halloween movies, because there's Halloween 3.
They're polar opposites, though. Like, Donald Pleasance has crazy hatred towards Michael Myers and wants to kill him. Miki Saigusa grew to understand Godzilla and protect him.
Well, yeah. Actually, to that point, if you watch the producer's cut of Halloween 6, questionable story decisions involving Jamie and Michael aside, at the end of that version of the movie, you get the impression that Loomis actually feels sympathy for Michael once he finds out that, you know, he's doing all this against his will. You know, he's basically under the control of the Cult of Thorn. So he doesn't want to actually do this, but he has no choice. So really, that's a very interesting parallel. They go from trying to stop this menace, whether it's Michael or Godzilla, and they end up sympathizing with them by the end of that run.
Yeah, it's a fascinating character arc. I gotta say, I prefer Mickey's more so, only because I'm more a Godzilla fan than a Halloween fan. But I will say, Donald Don Pleasance is a wonderful actor, and he brings a lot of heart to his role as Dr. Loomis. But yeah, I loved watching Mikado Sakusa in the movie. She was one of my favorite parts of watching the 90s series, both for reasons I can talk about and reasons I should keep to myself. I am a guy, after all. Leave me the hell alone.
She was one of my first crushes.
But in all seriousness, after Destroya, I think she sort of stepped away from acting and started taking quote-unquote regular jobs because of she developed some sort of sickness that made the acting world difficult for her to withstand. Tell us about that, Joey, since you know more about it.
So essentially, she ended up leaving acting because she got some type of illness. A lot of people thought it was cancer. It wasn't cancer. It was less serious than that. It was just enough to affect her acting career. But a couple years ago, she ended up beating that sickness. She's now completely back on her feet, and now she's looking to get back into acting, which is why recently on Twitter she had a picture of next to a voice acting studio to hint what she was going to be in next, which turned out to be reprising her role in the short Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex, and then Hoshi 35, and then recently she did a picture with her character with Godzilla Jr., saying that there's more projects she's going to be into. Don't know if it's going to be another short. Don't know if it's going to be a appearance in this new Godzilla movie, given how the cast of this new Godzilla movie has not been revealed yet, or a Godzilla film after that. I have no clue. But either way, I'm hyped. She's a great actress. Her career got cut way too short, and I want her to get back into that mainstream, because Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex was one thing. This is another step, since this is a feature-length movie, and in a feature-length Godzilla film would be, yep, she's back.
Oh, and I think I should point this out. I can't say for sure, but based on what I know, based on her interactions from G-Fest, because she started doing G-Fest when she went back into the public eye and started making public appearances before she started acting again, and even said that if she could, she would like to play Mickey again in a future Godzilla project. She got her wish. She seems like she's a wonderful human being, an absolutely wonderful human being.
I've seen clips of her. She is a very nice person. I want to meet her so bad. Like, if I can go to G-Fest one of these years with her at it, I'm going to have her sign one of my Blu-rays. Because
if you do go to meet her, I have to be there so I can pry you off her leg.
Yeah, Joey, you're going to be Wheelie from Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, humping Megan Fox's leg. That's how you're going to be like that for her.
Fuck you.
You know we're right. Why are you booing us? We're right.
But let's take a look at the Hoshi 35, unless you guys have more to say about her history.
No, I'm good. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm glad we were talking about her history. It's a passionate topic of
It
mine.
deserves to be talked about.
Yeah,
Giggity.
It's interesting. It's a part of my favorite franchise. I'm interested in her as an actress, and I like her as a person. So, let's take a look. Like, what I am really shocked about is how beautifully shot this is. Like, I was expecting some very low budget looking garbage, or something that just look low, not necessarily garbage, but something that would look more low budget, like the sea monster movies. I forgot the name of it, and even Kaiju Mono. This
Rigo and Riga, or
yeah, those are fun movies. Don't get me wrong, but you could tell they were on a budget. This, on the other hand, it looks beautiful. Look at the lighting, how it's shot.
Yeah, real quick. Do y'all recognize this guy? There's something familiar about this guy in the glasses.
Him, I forgot his name. That guy in the background there, that's Yukijiro Hotaru. He played in the Gamera trilogy. He played that guy trying to kill himself in GMK Godzilla. He also played the butler in Garo, Gonza. So, very familiar with his works. He's also in multiple other things. Him, I think he was in Shin Godzilla and Shin Kamen Rider.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I could be wrong. If not, he is somewhere else because I seen him. He's a well-praised Japanese actor.
These guys definitely both look familiar. So I gotta say a few things. One, if these guys are well-known actors, it really shows. I commend them for putting the budget that they do have into A, getting actors capable of the job, like these guys in Megumi, and B, putting it into looking as good as it can with the lighting, the angles, the cinematography, all that. Because, yeah, rather than overshooting like what those Raiga movies tried, those sea monster movies you mentioned tried to do, Joey, instead of reaching beyond what they could get to, it looks like they're embracing the very low-key feel of this, because it really does feel like a low-budget drama in some aspects where they focus mostly on mood and atmosphere, and I say that in a positive way. I'm invested just watching. Like, this one shot alone, it's just like, what's going on? Why does this look so beautiful? What about this scene warrants it looking as good as it does?
Yeah, exactly. Like, vibes I'm getting here, it seems to have a similar atmosphere to Howl Beyond the Fog, with the elements of the 90s Gamera trilogy in here, because you have the woods backgrounds that are very common in Kenoko Kaiju movies, and you got this little thing in relationship with it, which, great prop, by the way, gives vibes of a more cutesy version of Iris.
Yeah, this looks... Yeah, I was going to say, this does look like a lot of shots, it does look like it's Gamera 3, but on a smaller budget. Not saying that in a bad way. It's
Gamera 3, but on a smaller budget with a more wholesome mood. And I like that.
Yes.
Like, I want more wholesome kaiju movies. I like wholesome movies. I don't always want to watch something where, oh, everyone's dying, or, oh, look at this scary monster. Oh, look at this psychopath. Run, he's got a chainsaw.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you can figure out a new way to tell a story or how to have a new monster movie, do it. Try and go for it. And that's what it looks like they're doing here. It looks like a family drama, but focused around possibly a monster instead of like some sort of lost animal like Free Willy or Lassie or whatever.
Yeah, like I said, I'm expecting something kind of like Howl from Beyond the Fog, where there's a relationship with this monster. You probably have people that are trying to kill it, and then the monster ends up going on a rampage against them.
Right on.
Alice said, unpopular opinion, Megamind is better than what half of Disney movies have. Sorry, mine, just realized Islands 2 and ahead. What do you think of my unpopular opinion? I haven't seen Megamind. What do you guys think?
I actually have never seen Megamind either.
Cody?
I've seen Megamind. I wouldn't know if it's better than half of what Disney has, because I never really gave it much thought. I just thought that Megamind was a nice twist on the superhero genre, and that's all it was to me. I never went out my way to think, wait a minute, to try and compare them to Disney. Like, wait a minute, is this as good as anything Disney's put out, and so on and so forth. It's just like, as far as that comparison goes, whatever. That you do you. I love Disney movies up until like Moana, and even then, some of the stuff that came before that, I don't really care a whole great deal for. But from the 90s, reaching back to when Disney first started out, I love that shit because I grew up with all that. So childhood bias probably there. So yeah, and I agree, Alice. You guys should watch Megamind. It's a pretty good movie. I think you guys might like it.
I'll check it out at some point. Like, look how beautifully shot this is. Like, even this angle here, this looks like a movie shot by like the director of Hana and Alice and things like that. And that is a drama romance film. And since we're getting that here, it's like, wow, I just am blown away. And I hope this soundtrack here replicates what we're gonna get in the movie itself, because it seems like that would be a really nice mood setter.
Yeah, I like the piano music. A lot of people give piano music like this flack. They think it's cheesy, corny, or cliche. And I'm just like, nah. It helps set the mood and lets you know what the tone's supposed to be. And even if you might think it's overused or all that, it's still, to me at least, it's still a film making tool that should be utilized, especially in the proper context. And to me, so far, it has been utilized in that proper context. So stop hating. That's all I gotta say.
Yep. I've seen her somewhere too.
I bet you have.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen her in more places than just my bed.
Sure. That's a good story.
Yeah. I like some of these shots that they have. Almost looks like a Studio Ghibli movie come to life.
Yes!
To me.
Yes, it gives that similar vibe to films like Gamera the Brave that also felt like a live-action Studio Ghibli film.
Absolutely. I'm glad someone else gets it. This guy gets it.
No, I never thought of it that way, but y'all are right.
Yep. There's this traditional feel to it. Like, some people are gonna be like, but there's nothing happening in the trailer. Nothing, not everything needs a fuckload of action going on.
It's like, did you all forget that visual storytelling is a thing? It's not just about big bang boom smack smack smack. It's also about what story they're trying to tell.
See, this is why I say Hollywood movies are making people retarded. It set people to a standard that everything has to be fuckload of stuff going on at once.
Which it really does, and if anything, I consider that a detriment, because if you have something like that going on all the time, it burns people out. Case in point, look at how Godzilla King of the Monsters did at the box office, and it had a lot going on. Not nearly as much as like something like, say, the Michael Bay Transformers movies, at least not in my opinion, but clearly there was a disconnect where people felt like they were just burnt out too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's sad because, it seemed like it was hyped whenever that trailer debuted at Comic-Con the previous year. I think they probably just waited a little too long not only for whenever the movie came out, because it seems like 5 years to make a sequel to something sometimes test the limits. And, there's all kinds of factors there. We may never know the exact reason why it underperformed, but, I digress.
That's a podcast all onto itself.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that is. We should do that at some point.
I'm down.
I'm down too.
Yep.
もしかして星屑おかえり
And the performances still seem to be very good. Like,
Absolutely.
Again, I didn't think I would be this hyped for the movie, but it seems like it's doing something exactly what I love, and I like something that is sincere or something that's just trying to be heartwarming. Like I said, Howl from Beyond. I had criticisms towards Howl from Beyond the Fog. You guys could watch that review I did with Abyss Kaiser, but it was a good movie. And one of the things I think that really made that movie stick out was it's beautiful looking, it's beautifully sounding, it has a beautiful atmosphere, and this film seems to be doing something similar to it in that regard. But at the end, I hope for something like a cool little... Like, it doesn't have to do a cool little rump. Like, if they're not trying to make a kaiju rump, then they don't have to. But I think that's what they're going to do in this film. And that's personally what I would really look forward to out of it. And, yeah, I can't wait to see more. And the effects look very good, judging by that little one they've shown. Because, let me show it off here. Look how smooth it is.
This is my comeback.
No one cares
Start
about
yours
you.
at Purdue Global.
Lady, shut up. We're not talking about you.
Yeah. But let me show up that little thing. Fuck.
EDU.
Okay, now let me go to that part. This thing right here, it's probably just a miniature version of the monster. Like I said, going off the posters and such, it's gonna get bigger. And 1 minute, it started.
My
internet's starting to fuck up.
Do we know for sure that's gonna grow? How do we know? How do we know that it's not another Gorgo scenario where that's a baby and then the mama comes looking for it?
That'd be interesting.
It could be another Gorgo scenario, but that's what I'm kind of my expectations is that's a smaller version of it, but it might be a baby. But right now we can only read very little off what we're given, and I think that's what they're going for here. I think those men in suits are probably gonna come to try to take it away or something.
Could be.
And then that's probably gonna start some type of destruction, or the mother's gonna come and starting shit.
Well, to be fair, we haven't seen that kind of story in a while, so
yeah. Last time I seen that type of story is it was in the lake, but still, even the lake was very different about it.
Hey, so long as they do that kind of story well, I'm all for it because it looks like they're going to do it well based on this trailer at least. This seems to have a lot of heart to it for me, a lot of passion, and I'm here for it. In fact, for me, it looks so good, like it's going to be so good. If all this got was a sub and not a dub, even though I prefer watching dubs, I'd go with the sub. This looks to me like it warrants it.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely seems to be like it warrants it because the film takes itself very seriously, and the main genre I'm expecting is probably a drama. And I think that's going to be what makes it special because many people think Kaiju is just big monster, make big explosion, but that's not what Kaiju is. There's some that are like that, but there's different ways to do it. You can do it you can do it as a big action rump, you could do it as a drama, you can do it in many different ways, and this seems to be going the more drama, heartwarming angle, and that's something I do want because, like I said, sometimes I just want to watch something that plays with my heartstrings.
Same. I like cheesy, sappy, family movies, pet run amok movies, and all that kind of stuff. And if they're done well, then I'll say it straight up. Yeah, this is good. I think this is good. I don't agree with the critiques that comes from a place of cynicism and whatnot. It's like, y'all need to get your heartstrings tugged at more often. I have no heartstrings. Oh, okay, that's why you suck.
Yeah.
So what y'all are saying is basically a lot of nerds need to broaden their horizons.
Yes.
Yes.
They need to lighten the fuck up because they're always because a lot of people are just like that. Oh, I just need big monster fight. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less, or something along those lines. It's like expand your horizon. Like maybe some genres might not appeal to you as others, but I think if you look into like a wide genre like action, horror, or feel-good movies, you could find something you'll like in each, if you know what I'm saying.
For sure. One of my favorite things about the second Godzilla series, the Versus series, is the fact that Godzilla actually has a character arc throughout, running through the whole series. Well, it's forgotten a little bit in King Ghidorah and in Mothra, but they remember it in Mechagodzilla. Is him looking for something that's like him because he doesn't want to be alone in the world. He does it in 84 with the Seagulls. He does it in 89 with Biollante, and then it comes back in Mechagodzilla when Baby Godzilla becomes a thing, and then it comes up again in Space Godzilla where he has that family and then it's taken from him and he has to get it back, and then in 95 it's taken from him permanently and he has nothing left to live for. He's like, this is where I'll die alone, but I'm gonna take you with me because you took my family from me, you asshole. Would that be Destroya?
Well, if you think about it, Cody, in King Ghidorah, really the emphasis in terms of his arc in that movie is his vengeance, really. And I think the reason why they focus in on it in that particular film is because Shindo needs to take something away from that to realize the part he played in Godzilla's creation. So I think that's why they focus on that particular. So he's basically all in fuck these guys mode in King Ghidorah.
Oh, I agree completely. I wasn't saying anything against those movies.
Oh,
I
no,
actually
no,
like King Ghidorah and Mothra. People have brought up legit critiques for both those movies, but to me, the positives still outweigh the negatives. So I can forgive the negatives that are rightfully critiqued of those movies and enjoy the positives for what they are.
Some are
Oh,
misconceptions,
and
though.
for sure, as much as I like the Heisei Mothra movie, it's definitely more of a Mothra movie than a Godzilla movie. So he's basically just there to be a threat in that particular film.
Yeah, but
For
I'm all
sure.
for that because Godzilla in a lot of films is the threat. So it makes sense that in a movie where you have good monster versus bad monster, and that Mothra would be the greater focus of the monster you see, since they're what the humans are relying on, while Godzilla would be like he is in, say, the 54 film or something. He's the bad monster.
But then there's a lot of people who will be like, Godzilla shouldn't even be there anyways, and that Batra shouldn't have suddenly done a face turn where he becomes a good guy, and that should have just been Mothra versus Batra all the way through. To which I say, I understand where people are coming from, but I don't fully agree with that because having all those layers of Mothra and Batra being in it, and then having Godzilla in it too, and having Godzilla's presence support Batra's eventual character turn makes the movie more versatile in its storytelling elements, in my opinion.
So again, sorry, Joey. Again, it's people not really thinking outside the box, and they're basically wanting to make their own movie and judging something that they didn't make unfairly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like me and you have a very common idea on judging on film critique. It should be judged on what the people are wanting to make rather than what you want to make. Because when you do that, it's like, make your own fucking movie. You're not giving any useful critique. You're just bitching about they didn't go to you for ideas.
Yeah, I'll admit I've been guilty of doing that myself, and I've recognized that, which is why I've sort of pulled back on some critiques I've had of movies in the past. Like, I don't really, despite that joke I made a few days ago, I don't really shit on the Polygon trilogy anymore, because if you look at that, most of the critiques from people, there are some legit critiques, but
yeah,
it's really people criticizing it for not being what they want it to be, rather than accepting it for looking at it for what it is.
Exactly. Like, people don't like the fact that it's heavy on dialogue, even though the whole point of that story is humans going back to Earth, and scientists are coming with them on it, so it's natural there'd be a lot of talk about science and explaining on how the world has changed, and also not having a lot of action or reimagining Ghidorah as this Lovecraftian entity. Like, yeah,
ramen noodles.
Yeah, like, yeah, there is flaws to the movie movies you can criticize them for, but when you really boil down most of the critiques, most of the trilogy is not bad. I think there's more good that can be said about it than negatives. Just most of the critiques that pile up is people being like, oh, Gin Urobuchi and everyone else involved with it didn't make the Godzilla anime trilogy I was wanting. That's why when people say that Godzilla Final Wars is more Godzilla anime than any of the Godzilla animes, I want to smack them, because it's like that. First of all, Final Wars isn't like an anime. It's just an action-packed Kitamura film.
No, I see the similarities in some shonen animes.
Well, the thing is, here's the thing. Like, basically, anime isn't really different from live action. Like, when I bring up Kamen Rider and Sentai or Ultraman being like a live action battle shonen, really the reflection of those being like live action battle shonens just reflects onto the fact that they're targeting the same demographic as what shonen anime tends to do. So, it being live action isn't going to bring much change to that. And what Godzilla Final Wars is doing is like what other Kitamura films are. They're a lot like, they're a lot like Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez films. Balls to the walls action, simple enough story to tell with a lot going on. that's why. And the trilogy, when they say stuff like that, it kind of ignores the fact that some anime, like some live action, are very dialogue and drama heavy, if you know what I mean.
Right on.
And that's the thing. Like, people are wanting something like Dragon Ball Z or whatever shit like that. It's like, they never said they were making something action-packed. They were just making a Godzilla movie or series with the anime visual.
Yeah, but let's get back on Hoshi 35. I am sorry for sidetracking us all.
No, that's completely fine. Like, it's a podcast. Discussions go around from time to time in any podcast.
So, I've said all I wanted to, that this movie looks like it's very interesting, has heart, and I like how they're embracing their low budget, the low budget they most likely had, and using it to the best of their ability instead of overreaching like some other independent kaiju movies. So it has my stamp of approval. I'll definitely watch this motherfucker. Now you guys talk about it.
I'll let Trevor go first, because he didn't say as much as I have.
Oh, it looks cute. It has a good drama element. It has those, again, wholesome qualities that we need every now and then. I will check it out as soon as it is available to me.
Me, I'm
rock
fucking
on.
hyped. Finish, Cody?
Oh, I was just saying rock on to what Trevor said. I am so sorry. I do not mean to keep talking over you guys, I swear.
No, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. I'm hyped for it. I think it looks really good. I like that despite being a more low-budget movie, it's very beautifully shot. You have very beautiful music. And also, it shows off the big cast of actors and their ability to act, alongside showing off a piece of the special effects that are very well crafted, very lifelike, and very smooth. Almost as smooth as Cody's mom's vagina.
Why do it?
but and all that, it does a nice little job of visual storytelling while also leaving a lot to be shown off later. And I think what we could have here, we could have a cinematic masterpiece. Sadly, it doesn't seem like it's going to be released, and it seems like it's going to be a limited run movie, even in its home country. But that's the name of the game when it comes to low budget films, unfortunately. But hopefully it does get a lot of attention, because the film looks like it's very beautifully made and can be something that has a massive hit on the community. Like, if it's anything like the other lower budget kaiju films that get released here, it should premiere in the United States at G-Fest, and it should get a DVD and or Blu-ray release that I will definitely pick up. So yeah, I'm hyped for it. Glad to see Megumi Odaka still has the ability to act, because even in the trailer, she seems to display a very similar way of empathy from what I could tell as she did into the 90s Godzilla film, so that's good. But yeah, great film. I'm hyped for both the Primevals and Hoshi 35.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I gotta say, Primevals, Hoshi 35, possibly that small soldier thing. We'll see how that turns out. Looks like we got a lot to look forward to, both actually and potentially. This was such a... Gentlemen, I have thoroughly enjoyed going on this journey with you guys today.
I did too. It put a smile on my face. Thank you guys for being on.
Oh man, this was so much fun. I was happy to... Thanks for having me, man.
No, it was great. It was great having you and Trevor. Like, it seems like Trevor is getting back into the content creator group to some extent here, so that makes me happy.
Yeah, Trevor, thank you for coming on, man. You helped make this so much better.
Nah, y'all fucking suck. No, it was a bonus, yeah. No, it was a pleasure. It was I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll see where both of these goes. I think the Primevals looks like a badass action adventure film. This looks like a masterful drama with maybe action sprinkled around. Probably will. And I think both can really have a lot going on for them. I'm interested. Oh, and I think we should kind of go into one more thing before we go. Megumi Odaka, like I said, a bit of this did release a picture of her with Godzilla Jr. and said new project in the works. I hope it's a new Godzilla. I hope it's a part in the new Godzilla film. I really do.
Yeah. If you think about it, Shin Godzilla, in terms of supporting characters at least, there were, if I remember correctly, quite a few Toho veterans in there.
Yeah, even Akira Imoto, who you will know as Akira Yuki in Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly. He's the first person that I thought of. And so, if we have something similar with the upcoming film, that'd be great too.
Exactly.
You know what?
Anyway.
It could be that Megumi Odaka did with that picture. She might be doing another short film like what she did last time. Only this time, her character Mickey might actually appear in it, and it might actually have Godzilla Jr. in it with her. It might be a cute little thing like that. Just putting out something potential. But whatever she does, I would love her to be in a Godzilla project because, well, Godzilla's my bread and butter. But I'm fine just so long as Megumi Odaka has a job, because Megumi Odaka deserves a job, and so does Miki Sagusa. They all both deserve a job. They're the same person.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I want to see her more in the future. I want to see her in more Godzilla films. I want to see her in Ultraman. I want to see her in Kamen Rider. I want to see her in Super Sentai. I want to see her in other Toku projects. And I want to see her in more mainstream Japanese cinema as a whole. Like, seeing her in a short is nice and all, but a feature-length film, is way more hyping for me, because it's like, okay, now you are really back into the acting groove. Let's do this.
I dig it. I dig it, man.
Yep.
Oh, I want to address something. Alice said, Mothra has been ruined for me as a character because of a certain ex relationship. And I'm just like, if you can't let stuff like that ruin. I don't get people who say, oh, this ruined this for me. Like, someone in a past stream said that Master of Puppets being in Stranger Things ruined the song for me. Why does that ruin the song for you? It's still a badass song, whether it was in that show or not. You shouldn't let stuff like that ruin. Don't let stuff be ruined for you. Take away the whole Mothra, Godzilla porn fan art. Take away from that. Let's see what you still have. You still have Mothra's first movie, which is awesome. You have Mothra versus Godzilla. That is also awesome. You have her role in Godzilla King of the Monsters. That was also awesome. You have the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy. King of the Monsters was awesome.
I actually really liked the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy.
I do too, but I understand the hate to an extent.
I don't hate those movies. I just think like they weren't as good as they could have been. They didn't live up to their potential for various reasons, but they're not. I don't think they're terrible. I still watch them because there are things about them I do like. I just wanted to make that joke. But my point is, Mothra is not ruined because some fanboys have too much time on their hand and they have really sick, twisted minds that need to be taken out and burned after they're passed away. Don't donate them to science. Put them in an incinerator and keep them there. Mothra is still awesome, regardless of if that garbage exists or not.
Listen, it's as simple as this. The only person that can ruin something for you is yourself. If you let something do that, it's on you. It's really not on whatever it is. You choose what you pay attention to and what you don't.
Exactly. And when it comes to that whole thing, it's like, why are you letting Rule 34 change your perspective on something, bro? Like, the thing is, when it comes to Godzilla, like, for example, with Godzilla, you can find multiple twisted art of Godzilla, and it's like, Godzilla's not ruined for me. Like, the Rule 34, if it exists, there's porn. So the thing is, like, everything in this world has some vile things made of them, and I'm not gonna let it ruin everything else for me, so I'm not gonna let it do it for Mothra either.
Yeah. Would I like that stuff to not exist? Mostly yes. I'll admit some of it is kind of funny, mostly because of how people react to it. But
yeah,
even whether it exists or not, I love Mothra as a character, and nothing's going to change that.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I think people just say things for the sake of it because it's dramatic and they want to, go along with whatever everybody else is saying. Because if you notice, sometimes that's a trend. Oh, this is ruined for me. And then somebody will parrot that statement. Sometimes I think it's as superficial as that.
You mean like a bunch of clickbaiting YouTubers?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But anyway, do we have anything more to say?
Tell all are one.
Tell all are one, yeah.
You, Trevor?
No, I think that about sums it up. I think this was a blast. I think we learned a lot. We enjoyed the topics at hand. It was, simply put, a blast.
Yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, that's it for this episode. Please comment your thoughts down below. And if you enjoyed it, smash that like button harder than Trevor is going to smash Cody after this.
Oh, no.
And subscribe. This is Coach of the Makai Phantom, leaving the building.
Stay awesome, people.
Peace.